Okay, I am recording. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I am joined with a guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I am Heidi, also known as Heidi et al., such as I had a system name that was actually kind of taken, and I'm not really into system names, but I have always gone by Heidi et al., which if you read like college textbooks and things like that, they will say that they were written by, 20-some people, and they'll list like 3, and then they'll say et al., which is like, and the others. So that's Heidi and the others.
Oh, that's amazing.
Pretty much go by Heidi unless somebody is out and you know that I have DID. And I'm comfortable with each other. Well, they're comfortable with going by their name. So.
Okay, perfect.
We're very co-conscious. Been at this for over 25 years, so.
Wow. So it's a long process. Did you want to talk a little bit about your understanding of what DID is?
I mean, honestly, let's face it, we're sick of the DSM diagnosis, because we all know that. I'm drinking Panera energy drink. Bad idea, because it's like 3:30 in the afternoon.
So good.
But now I'm burping. But to me, DID is full-on coping mechanism, survival strategy. And if I had not split off these alters, made the alters, however it's done, because I'm old school enough that I don't understand the structural dissociation versus the this other. However it happened. Who cares? It's there. It happened to save me, so that I was not the kid on the news that died from their abuse. Sometimes I have trouble with that and get a little, what is your phrase for unaliving-ish?
Sure. Correct.
Get a little on that side, because I'm like, why did I have to live through it just to go through all this now? But the disorder, in my opinion, comes in later in life when the alters are no longer serving a purpose in daily life and are now in the way.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're there practically living your life, keeping you alive, making it so that you don't have to know what's going on. And then at whatever age, whether that's in your 20s, which I know is rare to get a diagnosis that early,
sure.
But, whether it's in your 20s or your 30s or your 40s or your 50s, whatever, all of a sudden it's maladaptive and it's no longer helping you get along in the world, it's hindering. Speaking of unaliving attempts, I've had many of them, many like 30, no exaggeration. I don't have the paperwork for, all my diagnosis paperwork and hospitals and all that. I have asked the hospital many times, how many times have I been hospitalized? But I've had the same inpatient doctor since my 20s. So
wow.
I've been very, very lucky there. He's like, on the day one, I meet with all the white coats of students, and I'm there. He's like, "This is Heidi. She has DID. If you have any questions, just ask her." And so, there's never been any doubt with the unaliving attempts. One of them was done by one of my alters before I was co-conscious, before I knew anything, and I had seizures for 3 days. You did the video on whether we are responsible if an alter tries to kill somebody or
sure.
whatever. And it's kind of the same thing, because doing so to yourself is still illegal. And we all paid the price.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I ended up, in the ER and ICU. Then I ended up at the county hospital in like this jail cell.
What?
And yes, but I had a psychiatrist. This was like right around the time of diagnosis, so I was like, I kind of knew, but I kind of didn't know. I'm thinking it might have been right before, because I just didn't remember, and I'm like, but that was a long time ago, because I went on a drive and tried to get lost. I don't get lost easily, but I don't remember coming back.
Really?
And then I found out by the calendar that was 3 days ago. It turns out if you try to unalive yourself in my county, that is illegal, and they put you in the little mental health jail.
Okay.
At the county hospital, and my regular psychiatrist had to get me out of there and into the regular hospital, because at that point I had insurance. I didn't have disability yet.
Okay.
But I had insurance, and it was like, get me out of here. And I remember that they had like the little splashes on the floor and the little pieces of tile, and I was making pictures. I was like, there's a teddy bear right there, and there's a cloud, and I was just bawling so hard, and they gave me like 2 Kleenexes and a blanket, and so I'm using the blanket as a Kleenex. It was...
And like, this is all after a attempt.
Yeah.
That's devastating.
Made me really want to be alive all the more, right? But it was after an attempt that I didn't know had really happened, or I didn't understand. I just remember I kept waking up under the coffee table. I figured out, and it would take me a while to get back up on the couch. Like, I'd try to get up on the couch. I used to be really thin, like anorexic, and 105 pounds and whatever, and that was back in those days. You know, so it shouldn't have taken a whole lot of muscle to get up on the couch. And I would try to get up on the couch, and I would fall down and like pass out, and try to get up on the couch, fall down, try to get up on the couch. I get up there and I immediately fall asleep. I would wake up again, hitting my head on the bottom of the coffee table. I guess I don't have proof that I had seizures, but I lived alone, and I'm pretty sure no ghosts or kitty cats knocked me off the couch and under the coffee table.
Oh my gosh, so you just had to put those dots together.
Well, my aunt called. I couldn't speak. I was like, and I couldn't form words, and she's like, you know, freaked out. She's like, I'm calling 911, and I'm like, okay. So I'm trying to say, like, I have to open the door because I didn't want him to break down the door.
Oh.
And steal my stuff. That's all I can think of. People will steal my stuff because I don't know what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Something happened. Something's not right here. And then I kind of figured it out because they gave me the date, and I'm like, that was 3 days ago. I don't remember a whole lot from that time. It's very splotchy.
Right,
That's
okay.
why I'm getting that splotchy story. When it comes to hospitalizations, the doctor that I was talking about, that I was under most of the time, I asked him, how many times have I been hospitalized? And he would always say, I don't know. And I'm like, can we find out? And he's like, he basically said no, because I had like 6 volumes of this thick
Wow.
my inpatient notes, and I think he was just like, let's not go there. You know?
Okay.
At some point, you know, the state really does not like it when you try to off yourself too many times. And so they sent me to the state hospital. And that was horrendous. I had people in there that said that it was worse than jail.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, I've never been to jail other than that little stint in.
Yeah.
But I was behind bars, so. But they took me in shackles, handcuffs, and 3-hour drive down the interstate. I got there, and they remember a whole lot. But I know that night they put me in a room that had a video camera, and I don't do video cameras. That goes back to the abuse stuff.
Sure.
And they put me in this room with a video camera. It had a bed and a video camera, and that was it. Like a blanket and sheets. I kept crawling under the bed so that the video camera couldn't see me, and they kept coming in and pulling me back out, and I kept crawling under, and they kept...
Oh, that is horrifying.
I literally split off a new altar at that hospital. I was still making them at that point, and they would put a Dixie cup on the door handle because I would try to open the door. I would try to do anything to not be seen by this camera. I wasn't trying to escape. I wasn't trying to do anything other than sleep outside of the view of the camera.
Absolutely.
But then the next morning, the psychiatrist that I was assigned to gave me the worst news I could ever hear. And for the first time, he said, "You do not have DID. DID does not exist. There are no alters in your head. You are schizophrenic. I will medicate you as a schizophrenic, and you are going to be here a long time." Because I was committed. So I had no say whatsoever in how long I stayed there.
How did that make you feel?
Oh, I remember just bawling, and it was devastating. It was absolutely devastating. By that point, I had been diagnosed, I'm gonna guess, for about 8 years.
Wow.
On that, but a long time. And at some point, my dad was like, "You have everyone fooled, and you don't have this diagnosis and whatever." And I'm like, if I have everyone fooled, I've got to be the best actress. Like, where's my Oscar? Because that means I fooled like 15 doctors, all in the same way, to the same diagnosis, other than this one. And he didn't believe in it. But my saving grace was two things. One, he had a social worker that worked with him that I was supposed to have therapy with. And instead of actually doing therapy, she knew, and believe me, and the alters came out and colored or played a game.
Okay.
And so that was my little reprieve.
Thank God.
And another thing was I had glow-in-the-dark crayons. This is back when those were cool.
Really?
They had big sheets of paper, and I would color with these glow-in-the-dark crayons, and you basically couldn't even see what was on the paper in the light.
Oh.
But I hung them on my wall, and they're like, "Why are you hanging blank pictures on your wall?" And I'm like, because they just mean something to me, like totally making up stuff. I'm like, they just mean something to me. And what would happen is enough light came through the little tiny window that they would glow at night. And when it was time to go to sleep, it was usually a younger alter that went to sleep because they could actually fall asleep.
Sure.
And they would go to sleep looking at these pictures, and these pictures were, "I love you, you're real," and hearts, and nobody really knew that I had these messages to myself.
Yeah, it's just something to hold on to through all of that.
The day before I left, the guy decided to mess with me. Probably wanted to see what my reaction would be, but he told me, the doctor, can't even call him a doctor.
Right. It's just sick.
He said to me that tomorrow we're moving you to whatever unit, which was the long-term, you're there for 8 to 12 years unit. And I was like, why? And I was crying, and I was so upset.
Yeah.
But I did not self-harm. I did not get upset. So then when I met with him in the morning, he's like, "I was just kidding, you're going home."
Stop it.
I'm about ready to strangle him at that point. I'm just like...
That's disgusting.
You won't put me through that. I kind of get that he was testing me and wanted to make sure I was going to be safe.
No.
That is not the way to do it. Not at all. So I got to go home. Thank goodness.
Amazing. I was like, that's a sentence if you had been...
When I was originally diagnosed, I'll just kind of go back to like how I was diagnosed or what little I remember.
Sure.
I don't remember hardly any of high school. And because of the alters filling in the rest of my life, I know some of that now. But I still don't remember high school. I have a good friend I know was one of my best friends that we saw each other at one of my reunions, like 20-year reunion or whatever. And she's like, "Hi, it's so good to see you." And I'm like, "Kelly, it's so great to see you." I knew her name and that was about it. And I gave her this big hug and I'm just like, what does she know about me?
Oh, wow.
Because I have no idea. I'm like, I know I knew her from band. And other than that, I know nothing. When I went to college, my resident assistant, I would go talk to her every once in a while, and I didn't find this out till later because I didn't remember it either. But years later, we re-met at partial hospitalization.
Really?
I mean, like years later, like I graduated in 91. Yes, I'm old. You can tell by the gray hair.
No.
I think, but I graduated in 91, and this was probably maybe 10 years ago that I ran into her again here, and she's like, "Are you Heidi so-and-so?" And I'm like, "Yeah, do I know you?" And she tells me who she is, and then says, "You're resident assistant," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you."
Really?
Throughout group therapy, I had no idea that this was coming, but throughout group therapy in partial, when it was my turn to talk, I'd be sitting there talking about abuse memories or whatever. I hate trauma Olympics, so I wouldn't get into big specifics.
Right.
But she would speak up and say, "I remember you coming into my room and saying, 'Did your mom wash her hair in the sink?'" And she'd be like, "Yeah," and then she said, and then you would say, "Did she ever use too hot of water on purpose?" And
Okay.
she's like, "Well, not on purpose, but occasionally it got hot." And then I would go on and be like, "Well, if you squirmed, would she hit your head on the faucet?" So then I went to, her name was Karen, was my resident assistant. And I went to her and I was like, "Did your mom ever hit your head on the faucet?" And she's like, "No." And she just told like these little stories in group therapy, and I had no idea of what she was talking about. I'm like, okay. And so I still don't know what she knows, but I guess I would come into her room and talk to her a lot and tell her abuse things. At that point, it was my alter Mindy, who's 15, that kind of lived high school and some of college. And I guess Karen went to her supervisor, who went to their supervisor, and was like, "You guys, we have a problem on our hands."
Yeah.
Like, we have something real here. And so she's the one that got me into therapy with student health. From there, I went straight, after finals, I went straight into the psych hospital.
Wow.
And the first things in the psych hospital was talking about abuse. It wasn't real serious, because it wasn't the stuff that, it was just the stuff I remember.
Right, okay.
Which wasn't a whole lot. But I was really depressed and really suicidal, and I was in and out of the hospital so many times because I couldn't stay safe. And that was the first hospital. And then the second hospital is where a lot of my time was spent. I was actually diagnosed there. And the way I was diagnosed, what little I remember, was a nurse came up to me and started talking to me. And I'm like, just talking to her, like, oh, hi, whatever. And she's like, you don't remember me, do you? And I'm like, am I supposed to? And and she's like, I talked to you last night. Better yet, I talked to a 5-year-old named Angel. Wow. And I'm like, you what? That was my introduction. And I've since learned, like, where they were in all the years at the first hospital and how they presented themselves, but it was, like, by hiding and things like that. But in that hospital, I remember one time, I think it might have been Angel that was out. I can say I remember now because I'm co-conscious, which I worked on for years and years and years. So that just means that I know what they're doing when they're out. They know what I'm doing when I'm out.
Sure.
For the most part, like if they want to write something, I'll let them do it in their handwriting and their spelling and whatever. But if the person reading it can't understand what they're saying, then I'll spell the word for them. So, but otherwise I try not to interfere because I understand, they need to, get their own stuff out in their own way.
Yeah.
But I think Angel was out and it was med time and they're like, Heidi, 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 all the people around, Heidi. And Angel's sitting there watching Wheel of Fortune.
Oh.
And they go up and tap her on the shoulder and said Heidi, and she looked at him funny and she's like, Angel?
Oh, wow.
And they're like, whatever, it's med time. And they gave her the meds and she chewed them.
No way.
Terrible thing. Oh my God. They're like, don't chew it, just swallow it.
She's 5 years old.
She doesn't know how to swallow pills. So that was one thing. Another thing in that hospital was, it was a teaching hospital. So they had medical students, and one of the rotations of medical students that came through was a guy that my sister had dated, and I was best friends with his sister in high school. I remember that.
Okay.
I don't remember a whole lot of it, but I do remember that we were best friends. And he and his buddies decided that I was faking. And at that point, Lori had just come out. And Lori is 7. She is, I don't know if she's selective mute or just mute. She does not speak. She does not make any noise. Found out years later, same thing. When we became co-conscious, it's like the whole thing of all this stuff opened up and I saw it and I was appalled. But they decided to take a whole stack of textbooks and go sneak up behind Lori and drop them. Because, Heidi's got to be faking. This will make her make noise. She didn't make a sound. Jumped sky high. Freaked out and curled into a ball and ran under the desk and you name it, but didn't say anything. Didn't make a peep. And, it sickens me that these are the future doctors.
I can't even believe that. It's not a game. In what world? It's disgusting. Right.
But my saving grace was the charge nurse at this hospital. So we're talking my mid to late 20s, probably. I think I was diagnosed around 25, but don't quote me on that.
Sure.
The charge nurse at this hospital went on years later to be a nurse practitioner, and he is now my shrink. And so he remembers the family dynamics, and because I grew up with a very twisted family with a lot of money, and nobody said anything because money talks, and you know, whatever. But he remembers the family dynamics and just how things were and how sick I was. You know, I lived in public housing twice. I've lived in a group home. I lived, obviously, in the state hospital. Now I own my own home. You know.
Amazing.
He's very blunt and to the point, and we have hour-long appointments, which is unheard of for a psychiatrist.
Oh my God.
Practitioner, so I guess he can do it.
Sure.
He can do whatever he wants. But he has said to me, "You were one effed up lady."
Damn.
Like you. But it's true though, I was. And
okay.
he said no one ever dreamed that you were gonna go anywhere. You know, and he's like, you were that sick. And when you get disability on the first try, twice, you know, that's kind of sad.
Oh, yeah. Oh my God.
I'm a laughing kind of person, so I laugh about things, but yeah.
That's okay.
I look at, this is probably like not even related, but I look at the TikTok stuff that's way overboard, and then I look at, some people are like, this is a horrendous thing and I wouldn't wish it on my enemies. I am of that camp.
Okay.
Yes, it's a horrendous thing, but because I've been working on this for 25 some years, because, you know, I used to have a ton of alters, and now I'm down to just the core ones. I honestly do not know if I will integrate all of them. And I think I was a little worried, like, saying that to you, because I thought maybe that people thought you had to, or you weren't healed, but I know that it's supposed to be up to each person. And
absolutely.
And I don't know, we're co-conscious enough that I don't know.
As long as, like, you're functioning.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like not
the point is there some losing time occasionally.
Okay.
But it's really fleeting, and like, I guess I turned around one time in church and said to a friend who knows, just like said something to this friend, like one sentence in a child's voice, turned back around and started singing. I was like, okay.
Okay. You know, so it's like you could still have struggles.
I do, and I still, the main alters are now finally going through their memory stuff, and so I still have a long ways to go. You know, I've seen my therapist now for a year, and I saw the one before her for 10 and a half years. I am absolutely making leaps and bounds change with this one.
Wow, okay.
And so that's good. Let me see what else I have on my list here. Oh, let's see, fun facts.
Yes, please. I need this.
Fun facts. My alters are Allie, who is 3. She has a pacifier because she would fall asleep because she could sleep, you know? So I was like, hey, Allie, you want to sleep? I can't sleep. But she would suck my thumb, and I literally got, like, scab teeth marks. And I'm like, I had braces. I am undoing my braces by her sucking my thumb. And so I got her a pacifier.
Okay.
And they actually make adult-sized pacifiers. It's not a fetish thing in my case.
Yeah, absolutely. Two very different things.
Yeah, but anyway, So that has been a godsend because my thumb is normal. Speaking of which, look at my...
Oh my gosh, those are so cute. I can't. This is just sad.
So anyway, so that then I have Angel, who's 5. She's my kooky girl. She's very silly. She knows all the words to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Mr. Ed.
Really?
And she'll sing them really fast. Do your ears hang low?
Okay, perfect.
But she was the first one ever out. I have a feeling she'll be the last one in if we do integrate everyone. I'm just kind of playing that part by ear. But when I say that she's kooky, she's funny, whatever, but they all have their serious side. And, you know, she still has flashbacks. She still has memory. So does Ellie.
They're there for a reason.
That's the ugly side of it.
Yeah.
But, and then I have Lori, the 7-year-old that doesn't speak. Robin, who is 8, going on like 55. She literally worries about finances, and anything that I worry about, she worries about.
Okay.
But it's really weird because we used to go to a mental health day program 2 different times because, you know, we were really sick, right?
Sure, right.
The first time I went there, Mindy was out, and we went by Mindy.
Okay.
And the second time I went there, which was years later, we went by Heidi, but there was one person that knew us from before and still called us Mindy, and I just answered to it. But Robin was the one that was actually out, because Robin can take, she's like the great equalizer. She can take any therapy knowledge or, you know, knowledge from classes like self-esteem classes and apply it. And I don't get it. It's just like over my head. And I am a very intelligent woman, but you would not know it when it comes to this stuff. Because I just don't get it. I never had those feelings. I never... You know, they held the feelings, and they held a lot of the stuff. So, what do you mean anger management? What anger? You know?
Yeah, because that's not your experience.
Yeah, and anger is still, to us, danger. Haven't gotten there yet. Robin can apply all the stuff, but then also, like, if Angel is inside and if she's freaking out about something, Robin could take an Ativan and channel it to Angel, and the body wouldn't feel a thing.
Really?
Yeah. Robin had different eyesight than me. Now that we're co-conscious, it's fine. But I will never forget the time I went to the eye doctor to pick up my glasses. I had to tell them why I couldn't see out of them. Because, like, I wasn't exactly the one that came to...
That is just...
Man.
Was it frustrating to explain that?
It was embarrassing at that point because, you know, it was like late 20s, early 30s, and so, you know, 20 years ago, and DID was not very well known at that point. Then it was really scary because I had to redo the eye exam, and I'm like, stay myself, and I was to the point where I could guarantee that was going to happen. So I was just, you know, on a wing and a prayer. And luckily, I did. I could see out of the glasses.
Okay.
So I was good there. And then those are the ones that are around now. Mindy is occasionally around. She's 15, lived through high school. And then Crystal was my angry one, and she's 17. She hasn't come back, but I don't think she integrated. I moved one time from a 3rd apartment to a 2nd floor apartment with no elevators, and it was me, a spotty, whatever, and 2 friends, and we were carrying, you know, queen-size hide-to-bed couches and things like that. At the end of the day, she just laid out on the floor, just splayed out and under the ceiling fan, and was breathing hard, but there was not a single wheeze. There was no inhaler needed, nothing.
Really?
And it just, it just kills me how, there can be different medical diagnoses. I would absolutely love to see brain scans of the different alters.
Wow, yeah, absolutely.
I think that would be like super, super awesome. We were TL.
Yes.
That is our word.
Perfect. I love it.
Amazon. I don't know how accurate it is, but I joke that like people, like gay people have gaydar, or they'll say that. My best friend is a gay man.
Sure.
So he's my hubby.
He's your hubby.
I went up to him at this day program and I said, John, I've decided we need to get married. And he's like, okay, why is that? And I'm like, well, because you're good arm candy, you'll get your needs met elsewhere, you'll probably clean the house and help me cook, and whatever. And he comes back the next day and he says, okay, I've decided we can get married, but we can't have kids.
Right.
And I said, well, why is that? And he said, because you'd fight them for the toys.
Oh yeah, that's a valid point.
Because, we have a lot of toys. Robin and her Barbies. She literally sews clothes for them. It's hilarious. So there's gaydar, there's other dar, but I call it DID dar, like where you just know. And I mean, sometimes you can be wrong.
Right, exactly.
Don't get me wrong there. But in this day program, I had so many people that were the copycats that as soon as they found out that I had the ID, it was like, oh, I have that too. And I'm like,
no. Stop it. That must have been like...
And then, I had a couple people that literally had alters that were the same agents as mine. And I'm like, okay, can you be a little more original?
Right. That's just disrespectful.
Yeah, and I have always said if they knew what it required to get this way, they would never, ever lightheartedly, oh yeah, I have that too. Because, no, you don't want it. My abuse stuff, it's everything. I had to pass inspection every morning from kindergarten on.
Really?
I knew something was wrong in kindergarten when before school, she always had to curl my hair. And my hair always went like this and like the same, not both under, not both out, one of each. And
really?
She got really frustrated and hit me across the face and my glasses went flying. And she called school and said, Heidi's going to be late because she broke her glasses. And I'm like, no, you broke my glasses.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I thought we don't lie. And I didn't say that to my mom. I wasn't that stupid.
Okay.
But I'm like, something is not right. But I never really put it together that it was abuse until like halfway through my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
Mom would always try to buy her way out of things if she actually felt bad for doing something. And most of the time, like in high school and everything, I could be like, Mom and I fought last night. That's all I knew.
Right.
I didn't know who, I didn't know what about. Just Mom and I fought last night. Well, one time in high school, we fought so bad that at about 11:30 at night, my parents had family friends bring over a Mustang convertible. And we're going to buy it for me as a makeup gift for what they did.
Yeah.
And I still don't remember what they did, but I stood up to them. I was called an ungrateful bee, but I stood up to them and I said, you can't buy your way out of this one.
Wow.
And I've had people say, it was a Mustang convertible, and I'm like, it didn't matter what it was. Sometimes it was a hairbrush, it didn't matter. Not to be Trauma Olympics, just to give you an idea. She my psychologist in high school, I was getting a C or a B minus, something like that in English, and you don't get below an A, and if you get an A, you could have gotten an A plus. If you got an A plus, you could have gotten an extra credit.
Oh, no.
But I forgot to tell you, part of my college notes and everything are in Robin's handwriting. Remember how I said she's going on 55?
Oh, really?
But
wow.
anyway, so yeah, she's a smart cookie. She took driver's ed.
Really?
So she gets to drive, and then she wasn't allowed to drive for a long time, and now she is. We were at the psychologist's office, and I was getting like a B minus in English in high school, and I was on one side of the desk with the psychologist, and Mom and Dad were on the other side. And he was just trying to explain that to them. It doesn't matter what the grade is, that I'm their daughter. And Mom just slammed her hand on the desk and said, "You mean even if she fails, we still have to love her?" And he just put his hand on my arm and took a deep breath. And I'm just like, welcome to my world.
Yeah.
So
it's just,
that's just what it was always like. And she flat out told me, "I love your sister more. Your sister can do no wrong." She raised her hand one time to hit my sister, where it was just the three of us in Mom's bedroom. And she raised her hand to hit my sister, and my sister said, "Go ahead, Mom, hit me." And she put her hand down, and she's like, "Go upstairs." And so then she did the same thing to me, and I'm like, "Oh, this works." I'm like, "Go ahead, Mom, hit me." And she said, "I will." Whack. I'm like,
what? That's just,
that did not work.
they're not treating you the same whatsoever.
No. She hated me. She absolutely hated me. And then she burned me with curling irons. That was her main thing.
Wow.
But every morning, I had to pass inspection. So I had to sit on, before I could go to school, before I could go wherever. And so I had to sit on, like, the third step going upstairs. She would call me in to inspect my hair, which was her chance to, burn with curling iron, whatever.
Right.
She never left permanent marks. I will never understand.
Wow, okay.
I must be resilient, because I've had people say they remember the welts, and I'm like, they're not there now. I had to go in for inspection, and she would always, "Oh, this is terrible. She'd pull my hair and yank and whatever." Well, one day I said, "I'll go have Holly fix it." My sister. I'm like, "I'll go have Holly fix it." Because Mom was running behind, as usual. She didn't have time. So I went upstairs, and I sat. Holly and I decided to do this. I sat on the side of the bed, or the side of the tub, as my sister got ready. She did not touch my hair. And I went back downstairs in about 45 minutes, and I skipped into Mom's bathroom, and I said, "Holly fixed it. Does it look better?" And she's like, "Oh, there's just one little piece out." And she just curled it, and that was it.
Wow.
And it's like, okay, she could do no wrong.
I mean, I can't even imagine the psychological trauma that does to a child.
She passed away 19 years ago. Kind of final diss, but I've had to look at it as final gift. But I lost to the Super Bowl because she was buried on my birthday.
Really?
Which is totally what the family would do, because the rest of the family wasn't nice to me either. But I was asked if it was okay if we buried her on Saturday, because the next day was Super Bowl and nobody would come to her funeral.
What?
But
okay.
No, there was no way I could say no.
I mean,
No.
yeah, they shouldn't have asked you in the first place.
No. So, but she's been gone for 19 years.
Okay.
And yet I still have flashbacks of her. And
Yeah. Do you find, peace at her being gone now?
I do. Some of the authors don't get that she's gone. Or they get that they know she's dead. But, Allie, for instance, the 3-year-old, will say, but she comes back. Or but she'll come back. And,
no.
you know, it's like, no, she's gone. But she's convinced that she'll come back.
Is it possible that she can't comprehend death at that age?
I'm thinking so. They talk about, like, alters. Some of them are living in the past, like, the years that they were formed. And some of them know what year it is now.
Right.
And Allie is very much still in the past. I don't know. She doesn't understand. I mean, we've tried to tell her it's 2023. And she's like, that's a number. You know, that's just a number. It doesn't mean anything to her. So, been working with her a lot. So,
I mean, it's just the amount of work I feel I can't even process that you've put into 25 years. But...
Well, and I've had, I think, like 15 different doctors all diagnosed me the same.
Wow.
I mean, obviously there had to be testing at some point.
Yeah.
You know, which there was. But when you go into the hospital and you don't have a doctor, they of course want to come up with their own. But I used to have such trouble in the hospital. I mean, this is the most petty stuff I have ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
But
okay.
I was a smoker.
Sure.
And it hurts. I mean, hurts to switch personalities. It hurts your head.
Oh.
Major headaches. Not every time, but the more you switch, the more headaches, and especially if they come like all the way out versus partially out, and whatever. And the hospital would just get on these petty, stupid little things, like I always put a blanket out on the floor in front of the TV and sat there. One, my hips grew that way and I like to sit crisscross applesauce.
Yeah.
2, I sit on the floor at home. 3, I could see TV better. 4, I was usually making a collage or doing something that needed space. Whatever. After like 4 days of being in the hospital, all of a sudden, I couldn't sit on the floor because that was childish. And you wouldn't do that at home. And I'm like, yes, I would. And I do. You know, so couldn't do that. Well, and they would do this like every time I would go in the hospital, and you know, that was a lot of time.
Yeah.
But then they had like a smoking room, and Robin would smoke for me, and Robin could channel it to me, and they would figure out that it was Robin smoking and not Heidi smoking. And they're like, only Heidi can smoke. 8-year-olds don't smoke.
Really?
And it's like, oh, come on, are you serious? You want me to switch and get a headache just for a damn cigarette?
That is bizarre.
All kinds of little petty things like that. You know, when they found out that Mindy was the one living my life, I mean, or I guess they call it fronting now.
Sure.
I don't like all these newfangled words.
Yeah, it's like what?
When she was the one living my life, they hadn't seen me for, I don't know, 6, 7 years. The nurse's desk was like, well, we need Heidi to give her the medication. Mindy had finally said to them, I'm Mindy. Bad idea. But so we need Heidi, whatever. So they sent her to her room until she could get me.
Oh, okay.
And they wouldn't let her leave the room until she got me. Nobody knows where I am. Nobody knows if I'm even still around.
Right.
You know, she basically figured out a way to act older and came out and said she was me.
Oh no.
Because there was no getting around it. They wouldn't let her out of the room.
That's just terrible. I can't imagine being forced to like try to switch.
Yeah, or forced to try to find somebody that's not around.
Right. It's like that's like abuse to do that to somebody.
And then there's so much that the hospital needs to learn. And
Yeah.
in general, psych people. But the last time I was in was, I think, 7 years ago. And I was having a really hard time with the suicidal thoughts. And I was not coming out of it. And they wanted to send me home the next day. And Allie came out and peeked her head out in the hallway in the middle of the night. And she was crying. And they came and talked to her. And in her little 3-year-old voice, she's like, Heidi's going to kill us.
Oh, no.
And the nurse was like, how do you know who Heidi is?
Okay,
Allie.
fair.
There's co-consciousness for you.
Yeah.
Duh, we're co-conscious.
Is that what she said? Oh my god.
Big little 3-year-old. Duh, we're co-conscious.
That's fair. That is a good answer.
It's like, do you people really think that we can't get better? Or, you know, it just kills me. When I do get better, do I still have DID? I think. Or I have recovered DID? I don't know. But I guess, obviously, they looked at it like, if I have DID, then I automatically don't know what's going on, and alters are popping out here and there, and it's like, no, it's not like that. At a very, very early on, I learned not to tell them that I hear voices.
Oh, wow.
I learned that would give me the schizophrenia diagnosis like that. And I'm like, I would say no. And then I finally, when I got to the point where I got the right diagnosis, I would finally start saying, I hear comments, going shopping, I want the pink one, I want the purple one, I want the blue one,
Yeah.
It's comments. And Angel's jokes.
Oh, okay.
Angel is always telling jokes, and he's funny, for real. And I'll just sit here and start laughing. I have to be careful who I'm around because, whether they know or not, whether I'm going to laugh. And they'll be like, oh, you just said this. Right before college, my parents got divorced.
Okay.
And I don't know how relevant it is, but I remember thinking, I can't go to college because I am mom's punching bag, and I didn't want dad to be her punching bag. Well, that's what I was thinking, That's what I was thinking before I went to college. But then they got divorced, and so then that was just weird. But then at one point, I don't know what I was thinking, but somebody said something, and I was like, in my head, I was like, nobody's allowed to hit me except my mom. And I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? It's like, why was that okay?
You just hear stuff like that?
Well, that was just my internal thought when someone had asked a question. And I was like, nobody's allowed to hit me except my mom. And it just stopped in my tracks, and I was like, what in the heck did I just say to myself?
Right.
I just felt like mom's punching bag. And technically I shouldn't even exist, because before they got married, mom stabbed dad with knitting needles in front of his mom and threw the ring across the room at him. But so it's kind of like, well, dad. But then, so it started off as mom being the abusive one, but dad joined in. Dad.
Okay.
In high school, I had a board that he brought home from work that said Heidi's paddle board.
Really?
But that was, air conditioner. That's one of the things that Lori was for, or one of the reasons she was around, is dad would hit with that, and I'd of course be crying, and he'd say 5 hits with no tears, or 5 hits with no noise, or something like that. So Lori would come out, silenced, and they'd take the 5 hits, and he would go away.
It's unfortunate that you didn't have either parent to turn to then.
Yeah. And I read somewhere, I don't remember where, I watch a lot of YouTube videos like Dr. Mike Lloyd and...
Very nice.
I like him, and I like Colin Ross, and then because I'm old, I used to read a lot of Richard Clough.
Oh, very nice.
But that's because I'm old.
I mean, does it help you to understand your experiences to read those things?
Well, I know the other thing I was going to say, which was not about them, but it helps me feel a little more like semi-normal, if you can call it normal, until it's about time for my Ritalin. I read or heard a YouTube thing, don't know which, growing up with the child abuse and neglect, which there's plenty of that too, in the home is very similar to being in captivity, because you can't get out, you are stuck there.
Right.
So it's very similar, even though obviously a different age group, to like prisoner of war, where you just feel absolutely hopeless. And well, then there's all the attachment theories and all that with couldn't get the love I needed from my mom, my dad wasn't there a whole lot. And my grandma on my dad's side told me even as an infant that mom would, like, it was time to eat and mom would just squeeze our cheeks and shove the bottle in.
Wow.
Like, eat. You know?
Kind of gives me an understanding of, like, even how you were treated as a young child,
Yeah. I mean, of course, I don't remember a time when I wasn't treated that way, because there's only so far back you can remember. But I know it was before that, just from other people. And when mom died and buried on my birthday and all that, everyone's like, I know you and your mom didn't get along that well, and I'm like, it's okay, you know, it was not. But, or they would be like, I heard it's your birthday, and I'm like, I share, you know, totally just lying through my teeth.
Oh, no.
But I just know, after I got into therapy, so this was before mom died, I wish I knew where this was, but it's long gone. But I got a letter from my grandpa's secretary, because we owned a dairy, not a dairy farm, a dairy plant.
Okay.
And I got a letter from his secretary telling me that she remembered hiding me under her desk and telling my mom that she hadn't seen me and she wished she could do more, but she was working for the family and she couldn't afford to lose her job, and I've heard a lot of that kind of stuff. Like, we had a cleaning lady that all through high school, she would go home crying to her husband because she wished that she could take me out of there. And her husband was just like, you need to be the light in her life. You know, she literally kept that job for me.
Okay.
Because it was, you know, like the only love that I got. So,
because she was a witness to what was happening.
And she's the one that said that she saw the welts and the bruises and all that, and I'm like, I actually had welts and bruises? I didn't remember that. And then she even told me that mom in high school made me call her Mommy Dearest. My sister and I saw that movie, and we started calling her Mommy Dearest, and she got really pissed. But then she saw the movie, and then I guess I had to call her that. And I don't remember that. I don't remember, like, most of high school. But I absolutely know this cleaning lady would not lie to me. We are great friends.
Really?
Yeah.
Amazing. So she was kind of someone who could at least be somewhat a support system. It's sad that it had to come from, like, an external force like that. Couldn't come within.
And that came so late. And I mean, we had a cleaning lady when I was in kindergarten that had asthma and would give me hot baths when I would have an asthma attack because mom would ignore them, and she'd give me her inhaler, and things like that, medical abuse or neglect, whatever you want to call it. This was in high school, but I was supposed to have deviated septum surgery, which, it's quite bad.
Sure.
And my mom and my sister had it, but I did not because my parents decided they had spent enough on me medically. And even though it was my allergist, my appointment that said I needed to have the surgery, my mom was like, oh, I have that too, see? And then she's like, oh, wait. And she went out and got my sister from the waiting room. She has it too. And they ended up with the surgery. To this day, I've been told I should get it. And I'm like, well, I don't want to pay for it.
I mean, that's like, the fact that they would do it for themselves and your sister and not you, that is just, it's hard to comprehend how that would affect you. And
I was very, very thin, but Mom always told me how huge and fat I was. And then went the anorexic route. You never know it looking at the glory that I am now. Food at the table would start with my sister and go to my dad and go to my mom and then get set back down by my dad. And I had to ask for everything to be passed. So then I was accused of being a slow eater. Things were just picked up when they were done eating.
Yeah.
So if I didn't get enough food, then that was my fault.
I mean, that's just dehumanizing to, like, you have to ask. And no one else does, like.
It was, please pass the whatever, I had to read. We didn't have cotillion in my town, so I didn't take that, where you learned all the spoons and the forks and,
Yeah.
But manners. But I had to read a book called White Gloves and Party Manners. I always thought, like, man, I didn't know you could be abused by a book. But you can,
Sure.
So I just remembered, like, when I went to college, it was little snippets like that I remembered. And now I've gotten a bigger picture, but that whole high school thing is still missing. That sucks.
Do you think that someone is holding on to those memories?
I know that Mindy and Crystal were out in high school. I know that Mindy basically lived my life, but I got her back like a year and a half ago. I called her in my head, and I'm like, Mindy, please come. I promise I will not be mad if you don't remember high school. Just please come. And I get her back, and she's like, what is the damn emergency? and it was nothing. I was just like, we haven't seen you. We were wondering if you were okay. And so she's kind of gone back in now.
Oh.
Like, you didn't need me for anything, so I'll see you later.
So she feels like she's not needed at this time? You don't know?
I mean, I have to kind of divide. I have to divide and conquer. I have to divide time at home. Like, do I let Allie out? Do I let Angel out? Do I let Lori out? Whatever. Mindy actually wanted more time out than I could give her.
Right.
And the other ones don't really come out a whole lot other than Robin. She's the great equalizer.
Right.
So she can come out and play Barbies, and it's like nobody else fights for time out. That's kind of how I've done it. The hardest thing now in trying to live as a system, if you want to call it that, is because all my alters are kids. Nobody wants to help. I need help doing laundry. I need help cleaning. I need help, doing the budget. And it's like, yeah, nobody either wants to or can help with that because they're all kids.
Right.
So, and Mindy kind of felt like that's what she was brought back for, was to, like, slave labor. And I'm like, I didn't mean to make you feel that way.
Oh, no.
So, she'll come back again, when it's time and when we have time to work on her memory stuff.
Sure.
But
how has having DID shaped your resilience and coping mechanisms?
I don't answer that question. Just kidding. Resilience was, it's a group effort. I have to protect them, but way back when, they were there to protect me. So I've kind of come up with it being as a group effort, even though I'm the one out.
Right.
Coping is nice because that's something that I really can get other alters out for, like Allie likes to sleep and Angel will watch VeggieTales, or Robin will play with Barbies, or, you know, if I need a reprieve, I can go in. I don't do it a whole lot. I kind of do with Robin, I guess.
What strategies do you use to manage your DID?
I manage it by having people come out at home. Thank goodness I live alone, and thank goodness the cats seem to like everybody. I'm starting to get daring.
Sure.
If you want to call it that. My church, we've been doing testimonies.
Okay.
Video, which I don't do video anyway, but I'm doing video now, but it's not the same as a video camera.
Sure.
But I'm planning on coming out to my church, not obviously as gay, but as Heidi. And so
right.
That I want to record any week now. And the fact that I'm doing this is kind of the first big, huge step.
Major.
Technically the second. The first big step was changing all of my usernames to Heidi et al. Except for Facebook, because my family is on there. And I'm not comfortable with them knowing things yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge to come out to even who you're willing to come out to now. So it's just time and who you're willing to. That's fair.
Yeah. Don't expect me to, start up chats on my channel.
Right, like talking about, yeah, that's fair.
Probably not happening. A little too afraid for that.
That's okay.
But I did just like 2 days ago, one of my good friends from church, the one that I turned around and spoke like a child to, and then turned around and spoke like an adult. That one. She's known for a while, and she just 2 days ago met Robin. It was so cool. She was so cool with her, and talked to her, just called her Robin, which was nice,
Wow.
Talked to her like a normal person, and Robin did the same thing, and it was just cool.
Yeah.
Robin is the only one that I can really switch to, unless I'm doing really bad, and then all bets are off. But
wow,
she's the only one that I can switch to without like closing my eyes and hiding for a minute, I still do that for the most part. Yeah, she was just really good with her. I'm trying not to be on the TikTok whatever bandwagon and the whatever, but you just can't not be.
Right. Okay.
But one of the things that drives me absolutely bonkers, the showing of alters. Yeah, maybe you do need to show an alter. Maybe an alter is coming out. Maybe you need to talk about an alter. But it is completely 100% up to that alter whether they are okay with coming out. The stuff that I have seen, it's like, what?
I mean, how does it make you feel to like look at hashtag DID talk?
Well, I haven't done that.
Or maybe don't do that. I don't recommend.
I've been on Reddit on my DID Baker page or whatever.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much what you'll see.
Pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But it's infuriating. But really it's because, like I said before, if they knew what it took to get this way, they wouldn't make fun of it and they wouldn't make light of it. And it, by all means, I have good days. I have good minutes and hours.
Yeah.
I love to joke, but is this always there in the back of my head? Yes, it is. If anything, it's almost like the smiling where you turn it into a frown, and like that could just hit any second. I dissociate. Id So many people think that if a person with DID dissociates, they automatically are in another personality, and that is not true.
Okay.
I mean, I can't say it's not true for everybody. I can dissociate with the best of them. You dissociate. We all dissociate.
Sure.
The worst thing is to think that everything's going fine, and then, like, 2 weeks later, have your friend say, but you said this, or you did this, and then you don't remember, and you're like, oh, crap, I lost time.
Yeah, I mean...
And you think you're in control of it, but you're not. But yeah, I can dissociate. I do dissociate. They talk about the depersonalization, derealization. When it gets rainy, I walk like this far off the floor, is how I feel. Like, things just don't feel real, and it's like I can't feel my feet on the floor. And they'll be like, you go through relaxation things, and they're like, feel the chair under your rear end, whatever they say. And I'm like, what chair?
That is because of the weather? You don't know?
I don't think it's because of the weather, but that is... Well, okay, maybe in that situation it's because of the weather, but I can do it at any time. It doesn't have to be that.
Right.
But when the weather is that way, I think it's a barometric pressure thing. Like, with my allergies. And
I've definitely heard of that before.
To stay grounded.
Yeah. How has DID affected your relationships with friends, family, romantic partners?
I'm in the closet.
Sure.
But I am a Girl Scout co-leader. I am a Girl Scout service unit manager. I am a Youth for Christ leader. I have more background checks this year than I've had like 3 of them. I'm like,
wow.
I'm very involved in my church, and for the most part, nobody knows. It's a lot like major depression, where you put on a face if you can. Sometimes with the major part, it just isn't possible. Sometimes you can put on the face and be sort of normal, and then you come home and you just crash. I'm the sort of normal. I come home and the kids are like, is that my turn yet?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like, you've been up all day, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, I just want a nap. In the olden days, it was like, well, you go nap, I'll be awake. And yeah, that didn't work very good because the body was getting no sleep. Yeah.
Right.
So I have to make time. People don't know. They're starting to. I am starting to open up. Like I said, I'm gonna come out to the church. I have 3 church friends who know. I have my gay husband, John, who knows.
Yeah.
And that's been a big decision, because I got to the point a few months ago where I just felt like nobody knew me. When I was going to day program for the mental illness stuff, people knew. When I was doing whatever, somebody knew, or I had people that knew. But now I'm not really friends with those people, and not for any reason that, fault of anything. Just life goes on and you make new friends, and but I've always been so afraid to tell people. A lot of it is because of what is out there on social media. I don't want them to think it's like that. I don't know. I'm getting more brave and starting to let people know. The people that I have not told, well, even the Youth for Christ leaders know, but I have not told my Girl Scout people, and the girl that I'm co-leader with is one of my very best friends, and I have not told her. she knows I have ADHD. And a funny story with that is I spent the night with her one time, because it's 20 miles away.
Yeah.
Where I Girl Scouts, and the streets iced over that night, and thank goodness I stayed, because someone literally was killed on the highway that I had to take home that night.
Really?
So, yeah, I was like, okay, that's a God thing. So I spent the night with her, but I didn't have any meds with me. And there are no meds for DID. There's, meds for depression, meds for anxiety, meds for ADHD, whatever. But I didn't have meds with me. I stayed there the next day. It was a weekend. So the next day, we were planning, like, Girl Scout outings, and we were planning this, that, and the other thing. We were going to the library and making copies of this Girl Scout handbook thing. And I'm like, okay, we need to make copies of page 56 through 59, and then this and this, and then all of a sudden it's like the garage door just closed.
Really? Oh my God.
It was just like the garage door closed. I couldn't tell her anymore what pages we needed. I was just lost.
Yeah.
And then we went to the little grocery store in their town and got something from the deli to heat up in the microwave. And we went back to her place, and I'm like, I can just see it. You're gonna go out tomorrow, and they're gonna be like, so who's your special friend?
Oh my God. Oh, that's ridiculous.
From that point on, I always had an extra Medicet day in the car.
Noted. That's fair.
But we have a friend that's very against meds in general, especially psych meds.
Okay.
And you can take this vitamin and it'll help with this, and you can whatever. I don't care. And I'm just like, no, you don't get it. And I finally said to this friend, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that you can vouch for me that I need that Ritalin. She's like, yeah, you need that.
Yeah, oh, okay, that's fair. Well, thank you so much for being on here with me. It means the world to me, and thank you so much for sharing your story. I think that it's going to help a lot of people to learn about DID and to relate to their own experiences.
I really appreciate coming on, and I was very scared, especially, being kind of the closet DID person.
Yeah.
So, but I'm trying not to be, and I'm just really hoping that I want the truth out there and get rid of misinformation. I'm big on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's very brave to come on here, I can't imagine, but you did amazing.
Thank you.
And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and peace out.